I wanted to give you this article from Israel 365 News. It said, meet the rabbi activist working to open up the Temple Mount as a house of prayer for all nations. And it shows a picture of Yehudah Glick. Rabbi Yehudah Glick has at times been called an extremist, an American-born Israeli Orthodox rabbi, Temple Mount activist, and former Likud member of Knesset. Rabbi Glick's efforts are focused on the Temple Mount. As the president of Shalom Jerusalem Foundation, he campaigns for expanding universal access to the Temple Mount. Ironically, it is this universalist vision that has led to this characterization of the rabbi as a right-wing fundamentalist. I am an extremist for human rights, Rabbi Glick told Israel 365 News. We have to end this absurd situation where people are prevented from praying on the Temple Mount on the basis of their religion. Currently, non-Muslims, including Jews, can visit the compound where the Holy Temple of Jerusalem used to stand, only under severe restrictions. Among others, they cannot pray. I hate it when they call it the compound. I prefer to call it the Holy Mount Moriah of God. Rabbi Glick firmly believes in the Temple Mount as a house of prayer for all nations, and is even engaged with Arabs at the site in a manner that many would find incongruous for a right-wing extremist. The only people who should be allowed on the Temple Mount are those who want everyone else to be there too, Rabbi Glick said. Through an unexpected turn of events, Rabbi Glick became a Likud MK in 2016. He said, when I first began advocating for the Temple Mount, it was not part of the Likud platform. Prime Minister Netanyahu still rejects universal prayer. The issue is not entirely right-wing in Israel. When I first started getting active politically, I was a fringe element. Likud didn't necessarily support me at the time, but they had an open mind, Rabbi Glick explained. While Rabbi Glick has a strong following among evangelicals in the U.S., his approach is not to court specifically the Christian supporters of Israel. The connection that I've been trying to develop for several years is a connection between God, Jerusalem, the Bible, and all people in the world, Rabbi Glick said. I don't choose specifically evangelical Christian or political conservatives. It's not a political issue. I try to connect with Muslims as well, and we know that he received gifts from the Turk Adnan Akhtar a couple of years ago. And he said, I reach out to Republicans as well as Democrats. The rabbi also acknowledged that currently Christian evangelicals are among the most engaged supporters of Israel. Today, it is certainly easier to connect with the evangelical Christians over Jerusalem, but that is not by any choice that I'm making to target them, he said. They happen to be the ones opening the doors today. But my goal is to develop Zionist movements. I definitely would like Indonesian Zionists, Malaysian Zionists, and Indian Zionists. I want all nations to be Zionists. That is pretty ironic, Rabbi Glick said. 100 years ago, the biggest enemies of the Jewish people were Christians. Well, I would definitely say the Roman Catholic version. And the Muslims were actually most friendly with Israel. Granted, there were always Christians who were better friends than Muslims, and I think vice versa, but this is where we are for the time being. Rabbi Glick said that his experience has connected him to many people from the broad spectrum of politics. To call it right-wing may not be accurate, Rabbi Glick said. This is just a political expression of a universal biblical ideal. When I was in the Knesset, I met with many American liberals, and I shared my vision with them as well. I showed them how the Temple Mount is connected to human rights as the liberal Western values. I believe that what I'm talking about definitely connects to all kinds of values. This is a spiritual religious movement that is beginning to take specific political manifestations, he added. The rabbi emphasized that these growing alliances that transcend political boundaries are essentially spiritual in nature and geared towards serving the God of Israel. I don't talk about common Judeo-Christian values, Rabbi Glick said. I talk about biblical values. Politics are not a goal, he concluded. They are a tool to get where you need to go. My goal is all humanity. We're living in a time when the people of Israel have come back, and we have a message that we want to share with the world. And that isn't right or left. It's global. So they're going to bring representatives of the 70 nations to sit in the world court of the Sanhedrin eventually there on Holy Mount Moriah, and they hope to be the world governing body and bringing the one world religion there for people of all nations to worship on the Temple Mount. So this is going to bring every false god and everything there from all of these various religious groups. Now, we know that Rabbi Glick met with the Turk, who eventually went to prison. He had the concubine women. That was really bizarre. And he had a TV channel that was dedicated to the crescent moon god. Some of the Sanhedrin rabbis invoked the name of the moon god, and in that meeting, they basically said that Islam was the religion of Adam. So Islam didn't exist till the 700s, and it went back further than that. It was partly in Babylon because the cow had the crescent moon on its forehead like a mark. So, if Satan, the greatest deceiver, was in the Garden of Eden and deceived Adam and Eve, perhaps this is how they betrayed God, was by believing that this deceiver, the serpent, could very well likely have been from that crescent moon god, the moon god himself. And he is called the greatest deceiver, and we know that's Satan. So this is truly, truly astonishing. And I talked about the king of Jordan, King Abdullah, and he wants to build another mosque on the Temple Mount. Now the Turk, with the rabbis, said that they would build a third temple, and he said in front of the Sanhedrin members that that third temple would be a mosque. So is it going to be that they're going to make that third temple like the temple of all religions? And so the great apostasy comes at that time. And this will be Mystery Babylon the Great there in Jerusalem. And guess who's going to come down from heaven and shatter the whole thing? But Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So I just wanted to let you know that there are those working to make this the house of prayer for all nations for the third temple. And we know what's going to happen, and we know what the prayer of the Prince of Judah, Daniel the prophet, prayed for the restoration of the monarchy. I do believe they're going to restore that monarchy very, very soon. And once they do that, they will be building that third temple. And will they incorporate it as a mosque, as well as other religions? Now we know the Pope is working the other angle of the global religion and bringing together the three Abrahamic faiths over there in the UAE with the three buildings. The Roman Catholic Church, the Muslim mosque, and the Judaism synagogue. So this is all going to come together in Jerusalem. Jerusalem and her monarchy and her people had played the scarlet harlot against God. And in the end, the real king comes down from heaven and sits on the throne. But until then, they're going to incorporate a new king. Will they remove King Abdullah as the custodian, and then that king is given power over the Temple Mount to allow the Jews to build the temple? Time will tell. So I just wanted to give you an update about Yehudah Glick and what's going on with that, and tell you a couple of things if you didn't know about them. Thank you for supporting my channel, which is paypal.me/KKROCOCO, and Kimberly Ballard, P.O. Box 246, Niwot, Niwot, Colorado 80544 is the donation address. And if you want to read about all of these amazing things at the time of Tu B'Shvat, about the almond tree and the fig tree and other plants and things that I got from the top botanist in Israel, Dr. Avinoam Danon, who's passed away. He was the emeritus professor of the Hebrew University, and he took a lot of flack because he identified plants from Jerusalem that were on Jesus' burial shroud. And he took a lot of guff from certain rabbis and people in Israel that did not want him working on that. So, unfortunately, Avinoam and I were going to exchange gifts, and I had a little... He was investigating these little seeds, and he wanted some specimens from Colorado. He traveled all around. He spoke in Scotland, and we didn't get to exchange our books because he died before that happened. And I didn't get to talk to his son after that. So anyway, this is what's going on there with Yehudah Glick. And we know that he received a gift from the Turk, Adnan Oktar, when he met with him. So he's invoked the name of the moon god in some of the prayers he's prayed with some of the Arabs. So he just needs us to pray that his eyes will be opened and he will receive the Messiah, because that's going to make him a more excited Jewish person than ever. And I pray that my book, The Almond Tree, Aaron's Rod, the Messiah, King of Israel, can be a witness to him. And this time at Tu B'Shvat, the New Year of Trees, when the almond tree is the first flower, will be sent forth. I pray God sends forth the message from my book to Israel and these people, so they might be saved from the wrath to come. Well, God bless. I'll talk to you later. Shalom for now.